Hello, Freedom Seekers. Jeremy Chambers and
Josh Chambers.
Independence Acres Homestead here. Coming to you today with our garden tour supporting Homesteaders of America. Really excited to once again coming to you guys with a garden tour in collaboration with Homesteaders of America. Now you'll have to forgive the state of our garden right now. We had a little bit of a tragedy exactly a week ago last night, and that was we had a hailstorm and a storm with 60-mile-an-hour winds, half-inch hail, just completely come through here and pretty much well, it kind of ruined the garden a little bit. But let me show you guys what we're going to be focusing on in order to, number one, recover, and in order to, number two, have a plan for the future. Well, let me start with this. I know that our last garden tour had a couple questions about the vertical training of zucchini and yellow summer squash. And it was going great up until last week. But as you can see here, the hail just knocked everything over. So this is our zucchini patch now. And there's not much left. We're going to do what we can. We're kind of in recovery mode with the zucchini. Most of our squash and zucchini was hit pretty bad with the hail. Basically, it looks like somebody had just come through and shot it full of bullet holes. As you can see here, the squash leaves are just riddled. I mean, there's just holes everywhere. If you didn't know any better, you'd think that we would have had a terrible bug infestation eating all this. But up until last Saturday, these leaves were full and green and gorgeous. I kind of wish I would have done the garden tour then and recorded it then, but I guess sometimes you guys need to see failures too. So here we are. Welcome to Garden Failure and Recovery 101. So this squash plant was about 3.5 feet high. The zucchini plant was about 3.5 feet high, and got knocked down in the hail and has been pretty well beat up. So the plan here is just to let the last few zucchini that is on the plant to try to scab over, and we're hoping that we'll be able to at least let them grow large enough to where we can use the flesh for making zucchini bread and recover the seeds for next year. Now the yellow squash, on the other hand, fared just a little bit better. So what we're doing is we're just using some of these plastic covered metal stakes and going on either side of the plant. And this one kind of has a Z formation on it here, but we're getting a nice vertical growth here along with the other two yellow squash. And basically, this is just a matter of making sure that you're monitoring it as it's growing and staking it up as you go. Now, this was our tomato arch here, and up until last week, all of the tomatoes had grown up and they were growing nicely up the arch. But this is kind of what we're left with here, just tomatoes that have been ravaged by the hail. So once again, we're just going to let these go ahead and ripen out on the vine a little bit, and then they're all going to get plucked and tossed to the chickens. They'll be great treats for the chickens. The plan is to try to retrellis these back up, cut off any parts of the tomato vine that are broken or dying, and hope that we'll be able to get another round of fruit set and ripened before our first frost. But most of the green fruit that was on the vine during the hailstorm was pretty well pummeled. We're hoping that it'll scab over enough to ripen, so at least we can get some food for the chickens out of it. Most of the fruit that was starting to blush as the hailstorm came through, it's basically just rotting on the vine right now. So we're going through, we're picking that, and it's going out to the chickens or to the compost. One thing that did fare pretty well throughout the hailstorm was our pepper plants. The greenery suffered a little bit, but most of the fruit is going to be okay. There's some scars on some of it, but it looks like it's going to be okay. So the ones that have set the most fruit so far this year have been these black Hungarian peppers. And they are just black Hungarian hot, and they're just a really pretty pepper. I love the purple flowers that are growing on this plant. So there's the purple flower there. And this fruit is just so vibrant. It looks, they call it a black pepper, but in honesty, it looks purple, and it begins to turn just a beautiful shade of red as it matures. See, the other one that kind of got pummeled a little bit was our fish peppers. So the plant itself of our fish peppers is a little stunted right now. We're hoping that it's going to recover. It was just starting to set fruit when we got hit with this hailstorm. There's a couple fruit on it that should be able to recover here. So there's the fish pepper. I just love this plant. It's a variegated plant, so you've got the beautiful white and green foliage there. Almost looks like a house plant. So I really like that. The other plant that fared fairly well, like I said, was the other pepper plants here with jalapenos. They took a little bit of a beating. A lot of holes in the leaves, some scarred up plants, or some scarred up fruit. And then this plant here, this is the Sugar Rush peach. So they haven't quite peached out for us yet. One of the drawbacks to living in Michigan is that it's very difficult to get fully colored and ripened peppers. They just have a tendency to just stay green, and then just as they're starting to ripen, we get our first frost and they end up rotting on the vine. This is a really unique plant that we have here in our garden. That's a Tigger plant. You got to watch out for him. He has sharp claws, and sometimes his teeth come out. But for the most part, it's a good plant to have in the garden because he keeps the mice away. Was that funny, Josh?
Yeah.
All right. This is another unique plant that we got from a friend, a YouTuber, Brew City Gardener. Sent us a lot of really interesting seeds this year. One of them was a ground cherry. And I have never been good with ground cherries or tomatillos or anything in the nightshade family other than tomatoes and peppers. So this was an interesting plant to grow. So it got beat up a little bit, but it does still have some fruit setting here. And basically we wait until those are completely dry and have fallen on the ground, and it produces just a little tomatillo-like fruit in there, but it's very, very sweet. Just a really excellent flavor. We're really thankful that Brew City Gardener sent those to us. The other plant that he sent to us was this tomato plant here, the Wild Sweetie. And it produces these just itty-bitty, tiny, did I say tiny, itty-bitty fruit yet? Yeah, so I mean, these things are literally bite-sized. But even they were not 100% unscathed, so you can see there's some bruising there, but just a really sweet, flavorful bite for sure. But the plant itself was just, it was almost 7 feet tall over here, coming off the trellis, and it's just been pummeled. This is one we haven't had a chance to get through and prune out the dead or dying stuff. The Tromboncino. So the Tromboncino was growing wonderfully across the arch here, and it looks like it's going to recover. It's got some new leaves here. You can see here's one that's completely unscathed. This is a new leaf since last week, but this is all the old leaf here. I mean, it's just so much destruction here. But the most disappointing part was that now that it is trying to regrow, it's putting all of its oomph into growing new greens, and all of the fruit that had started to set basically is just rotting now. I don't even see any right now, but here, let's this one here. I mean, this was the fruit that had started to set, and it basically just fell off and started rotting because of the energy that it's sending to repair itself. But it is starting to set some new fruit. We're hoping that those will start to bloom here in the next week or two, and we'll still be able to get a decent Tromboncino harvest. I also want to do a quick cucumber update. After 2 months, we still haven't been successful in growing any cucumbers because of these darn cucumber beetles. I'm out here every day or every other day picking off the beetles. Like, there's one right there. These things are just decimating our cucumbers. But we have been successful in getting one vine to about a foot long. There's a single flower on there, and that single flower is full of cucumber beetles. So I've pretty much given up on cucumbers as far as that goes. You know, we put a lot of work into the garden this year, making sure that we had things mulched, well composted. I mean, as you can see, everything is green and lush. And this patch over here is what we're going to look at next. This is our Cherokee Tan pumpkin and butternut squash patch. Once again, up until last week, this was full of 2-foot wide, just beautiful green, lush leaves. And now it just all got beat back. We've got some new growth, so I'm happy about that. We do have some recovery. But if we look at some of the fruit here, so let me just show you this fruit here. It has got just so much scarring on it from the hail, and I'm not really sure if that is going to recover. So we're kind of in the same situation we are with the Tromboncino. All of the small fruit that had flowered but hadn't yet been pollinated, all those flowers died off as soon as that hail hit, and the energy went to recovering the greens. So the fruit that's left is pretty damaged. We're hoping that it's going to scar over and that these fruit will still be able to fully mature and ripen without rotting, so that we can still get something out of this, because man, we really like these Cherokee Tan pumpkin, and we really like winter squash in this house. But I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a decent amount of fruit hanging underneath the arch. Let me see if I can get a little closer. There's actually a one or two of the butternut squash on the vine here that are the size of my head or larger. But let me see if I can get these. There we go. See, there we go. There's some butternut squash on the squash arch there. And, well, there's some new young fruit that's starting to grow. And then, you know, last but not least is our tomatoes here. Just, once again, it's just, it's disappointing. The amount of fruit that's just going to rot on the ground this year, or it's going to go to the chickens, and we're not going to get a chance to eat it ourselves. I've got some, you know, pineapple tomatoes here. They're pushing just about a pound and a half, maybe even a couple 2-pounders. And the hail put holes in them, and they're just rotten. It's kind of heartbreaking, actually. But, you know, now, like I said, we're just going to go through and hope that, first of all, blight doesn't finish these off before we can get some fruit to ripen enough, at least for the chickens, to get some damaged fruit. But we're hoping that we'll be able to get a second round of fruit set here. We're going to go through and prune back and, you know, remove all the fruit that's bad, and just hope for the best here. Cherry tomatoes, just absolutely pummeled. There's still some here on the vine. We've been eating some of the ones that survived, but the ground is just littered with bruised and broken green and red cherry tomatoes. Yeah, so we're gonna do what we can. We have like 2 apples left on our apple trees that survived the hail. It's frustrating, but you know, on the flip side, we're very thankful that we didn't have a significant amount of damage to our house or our buildings, the vehicles. There was just absolutely nothing. About the only thing garden-wise that I'm going to have to do is after further inspection on the greenhouse here, we've got some damage to the top of it. I'll take you in there for a second here. I'll take you in there in a second. We've got some damage across the top of it. There's a couple holes from the hail blowing, but it looks like I'm going to cover it with another layer and put an insulating layer in there so we can heat it and keep stuff growing during the winter. So none of the plants in the greenhouse here were damaged. So let's show you what we got in the greenhouse. Not much has changed other than things have just grown in size. We've got some sweet peppers, some more of the Sugar Rush peach. They are starting to we might actually get some ripening on those here in the greenhouse. Some fish pepper. Now the biggest drawback with the greenhouse, biggest struggle we're having with the greenhouse right now is on the peppers here. Just on these 7, because we've also got some habaneros here, which are habanero but that aren't hot. On these 8 plants that we've got here, we're struggling with an aphid infestation. So neem oil has become my friend over the last couple days. I'm trying to treat every other day to get all those life stages. But man, they are just winning. Looking at it now. Let's see if I can show you here. I'm looking at it here now. There's says little green dots on the leaf. Stinking aphids. They just won't go away. But that's part of greenhouse growing. It's a learning process for us. So neem oil. So we're doing a tablespoon of neem oil and a tablespoon of dish soap, mild dish detergent in a spray bottle, fill it with water, per gallon, and spraying that on there every 2 days, trying to take care of the life cycle because Anyway, so it's either aphids or it's hail. All right. Over here on these 2, we've got just 2 tomato plants. I had some extras, so we just did a little string trellis here under the rack. Let's see, we've got aloe up there, some other herbs that we've got going. I'm going to show you guys something, and I want you to understand that in Michigan, the growing of cannabis plants is legal for citizens, individual citizens. We're allowed 12 plants per household. We do not partake in any cannabis. However, we do grow hemp. So I kind of find a little bit of a loophole in there that allows us to grow some industrial hemp. This is a variety that has 0 THC but a very high CBD level. So we're pressing out flowers and to get the oil, the CBD oil. And then we'll also are saving all of our stalks. Like I said, we're allowed to do 12 plants at a time. So as we go through every iteration, every cycle, we're saving the stalks, and we hope to be making maybe some hemp fiber one day for whether we want to try weaving it or making some hemp paper out of it. We're not 100% sure, but it's a growing experience and exercise for us and also the rabbits absolutely love the greens, and it's a high nutrition, high protein green, very similar to kale or spinach. So it's just one of those things that the relaxation of the cannabis laws have allowed us to experiment a little bit with this plant that is a lot of the history of our country depended on hemp production in the early couple hundred years there. So and then up here in these 2 pots, we had some ginger sprouting on the counter, so I decided to go ahead and throw it in a pot, keep it hot and wet, and see what we have going on here. And actually had some volunteer dill pop up with the ginger. And then over here, we've already started in the back of this bed here. We've already started some of our our fall sowing. We've got radishes, watermelon radishes, and some beets over here, more pepper plants, and then these 2 trees right here are bell pepper plants. They're growing really well, and the aphids have not found these plants yet, which I find very interesting that they're only on the south side of the greenhouse, but thank God. I'm glad they haven't made it over. But I've got some decent bell pepper growth here, grown pretty quick. These only popped up just about last week, and we're actually hoping we might see some ripe bell peppers here in the greenhouse. We've got some cabbage in the back here. We've already eaten a couple heads of cabbage out of the greenhouse and out of the garden. Excellent, absolutely love the cabbage. And I guess that's about it, guys. I want to thank you so much for putting up with my rambling. Oh wait, one more thing. That is our strawberry pot. It's kind of covered right now behind the wild sweetie cherry tomatoes, and the tomatillos kind of took it over a little bit here. both of those, like I said, suffered. But the strawberry plant here has done pretty well. It's kind of hard to see, but so with the strawberry plant, we've been capturing the runners. So if you look down here, each one of these individual small pots, there's runners coming off of the strawberry plants. And so I am making sure we get those runners into soil so that they can produce roots, and we'll be able to propagate those out and grow some extra strawberry plants this year. Well, like I said, thank you guys so much for joining us with, listening through my rambling. I know that this may have been a little hard to watch to see what we're dealing with, but we're just, like I said, we're just so thankful to God that none of us were injured, and there was no major destruction to our property, or our houses, our house, our garage, or any of our vehicles. We'll get through this. It's it's just food. I'm very thankful we don't live in a time and age where we are 100% dependent on our garden, but that it is, like I said, it just gives us that extra step of freedom away from one of those, one of the world systems of feeding ourselves. But we're just thankful that we made it through through the storm. Some of the plants are recovering. We're hopeful to get a little bit of harvest from them. But exciting things are still going on. We've got more videos coming up in the next few weeks. We're going to be showing you guys our quail setup, the new rabbit hutch, and we've also got a giveaway coming up. We went over 700 subscribers, and we decided it was time to do a giveaway. So pay attention, subscribe and like so that you don't miss out on those future announcements. Next video will be the giveaway announcement, along with going over our freshly built rabbit cage structure. So thanks so much for joining us, and as always, God bless. All right, Josh. Hey, Tiggs.